Alright folks, just a update on what the expectations should be for you guys with AP Psychology. Having to do the virtual AP night, of course, because, coronavirus, unfortunately. But this should give you plenty of information about what the expectations should be and whether or not you should take this class, which you should, absolutely, if you feel like you're ready for it, which we're going to talk about. So before we get into it, let's ask ourselves just a couple of questions so we can prepare and be ready to answer that question of whether we want to take this course. So first off, ask yourself, are you a hard-working individual? Are you? Do you work hard? Do you apply yourself every single day? First, are you hardworking? Second off, are you awesome? I sure hope so. If you don't think you're awesome, well, guess what? You're wrong, because you are. You are awesome. And also, lastly, you should ask yourself, am I currently breathing air? If you said yes to any one of these questions, and hopefully you said yes to all three of these, especially that last one, then you should take AP Psychology. You should take AP Psychology. It's a fantastic course, extremely interesting content, and guess what? You also get college credit, so you save yourself tons of money down the road. So, let's ask ourselves some more questions here. What should my expectations be? What am I learning in this class, Mr. Bowers? I mean, you're just throwing AP Psychology around like people know what that's all about. But what should I expect to learn? Well, inquisitive student, future student, let me answer that question for you. Just a few things that you could expect to learn, some questions that you could expect to answer. First off, you're going to learn a lot. There's a lot of information in this course. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different vocab terms that we are going to be able to ingest throughout the entirety of this course, and then once we get to the AP exam, regurgitate those in such a way that it will impress all of the people that are grading your AP exam. So let's ask ourselves some questions here. First off, how do we study psychology today? How has it changed? How is it different from way, way back in the day where the Greeks just thought you were born with all knowledge and then you just kind of rediscovered it, as opposed to like the 1800s and 1900s when psychology is developing? They're doing all sorts of tests to try and understand the mind and how it's built and what it's built of. Also, more questions. Where did psychology even come from anyway? Kind of hinted at that with the Greeks. Starts off with philosophy, and then as times change and understandings of the way the mind works change, it evolves into something completely different, and eventually we get the birth of the scientific field of psychology. Also, what did this guy have to say about your mom? That's Sigmund Freud over there to the left. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the things that he believed, which a lot of them were extremely misogynistic and incorrect, but he is an extremely interesting individual, and him, among others, will be folks that we will learn about and talk about their theories, the things that they thought, what they were wrong about, how those theories have changed throughout time. Also, I was told to put this in the middle of the video, if you will, to get credit for seeing this AP Virtual Academy whatever video. If you will, go to either that URL or just scan this QR code and fill out the questionnaire that you're going to get there. That will give you credit for having watched this and count as though you went to an AP night at Oak Grove High School. So please make sure to do that. It is of the utmost importance that you do that. Please make sure to go to this link and fill out that information. But anyway, back to some more questions that we can answer by taking this course. Just a little picture of the nervous system there, just to let you know, that's you. That's your brain, that's your nervous system, that's how it communicates to the entirety of your body. First off, some questions we can ask ourselves that we'll answer in this class. Where do memories go? Your memory of this video, where's it going? Where's it going to end up? Where's it stored? Where's the physical location of this memory at? How does my brain talk to my feet? Sounds like a kind of weird question, but when you think about it, wiggle your toes. You just did it? How'd that happen? We're going to talk about that. How come I don't have to decide to pull my hand back from a burning hot stove? I know how much you guys love to touch burning hot stoves. And so as a result, I want to inform you and let you know why it is that you don't have to consciously go, hey, wait a minute, this burns. I should pull my hand away. You don't have to do that. It immediately happens. It's automatic. We're going to talk about that. And lastly, in terms of questions, what is the chemical makeup of love, thought, and emotion? those thoughts, those ideas, those emotions. You see somebody walking down the sidewalk and you go, hey, they're pretty attractive. Let me go see if I can stir up a relationship with that person. Well, that's chemicals. Those are things, chemical processes, electrical processes happening inside of your brain. Guess what we're going to do in class? We're going to talk about that. So, that and more, because guess what? That's just the first 2 units of information. Wow. That's amazing. So we're going to cover a lot in this particular class, with that just being the first 2 units. Let's talk about your test and what that's going to look like. So your AP exam, when you get to it, it's going to look like this: 100 multiple choice questions to be completed in 70 minutes. Obviously less than a minute per question. It's pretty rigorous in terms of the time content that you have to complete these questions. So you want to make sure that as we're going through this year, as we're exploring this information, as we take our tests, that you're working on pacing yourself well, making sure that you can complete this test, because you don't want to end up at the end of those 70 minutes and still have 10, 15, 20 questions. So ask yourself this question: am I a fast test taker? Can I not only get the answers correct, but can I do so quickly in a very, very rigorous pace? The second part of the test, 50 minutes. You have 2 free response questions. You'll hear me refer to that in class as an FRQ. You're going to have 2 of those FRQs. One is going to be research methods. They're basically going to present you with a particular scenario where research information is presented to you, or particular experiments, and you're going to have to answer a question relating to that. Secondly, content application. You are going to have to take some of the terms, typically it's somewhere in the realm of like 5 to 10 different terms, and apply those to a fictitious scenario. So it may give you somebody who was at a party and an event happened, and then it'll give you 7 terms, and you have to apply those terms to that particular scenario. So that's what your test is going to look like: 100 multiple choice questions, 2 free response questions, for a total of 2 hours. Okay, 120 minutes. So we want to make sure that as we're going through the class, and as you think about taking this class, can I pace myself to complete all of this information? I will obviously teach you and help you, and we will work on these skills together. But do keep that in mind. What can I expect to learn? What does a class look like? Here's a breakdown of each of those units. Some of those questions that I pulled out of really nowhere come from Unit 1 and Unit 2. We have 9 total units. Here is a breakdown of what the weight of those units look like on the final exam. Basically what your expectation can be in terms of how many multiple choice questions will I have from this particular unit. So if we look at it, 10 to 14 questions are going to come from Unit 1, 8 to 10 questions are going to come from Unit 2, and so on and so forth. So do keep that in mind. We're going to spend more time with units that have a much larger weight. Of course, cognitive psychology here will be the one we spend the most amount of time on. So that is what the class itself looks like. By the end of it, we should have all 9 units covered. So some frequently asked questions. There we go. So first off, do I get college credit for this? Yes, absolutely. Just to let you know, all UNC schools will take a 3 or better. There used to be some variance in terms of like some UNC schools would only take a 4, some would take a 3. That is no longer the case. All UNC schools take a 3 or better, and you will get college credit for essentially a social science course, some sort of psychology course. And most accredited schools are also going to take AP courses that are accepted and created by College Board. Second question here, do I have to take the AP exam? Yes, you do. Davidson County Schools does pay for your AP exam, and so that does require you to take the final. Does the AP exam reflect on my grade in the course? No, it does not. So when you take that AP exam in May, we won't get those scores back until summertime, after grades have been submitted. So your AP exam scores are not going to reflect on your grade in the class whatsoever, just because of the sheer fact we don't have those scores yet. Are there any prerequisites for this class? There are absolutely no prerequisites. I have had some students that take my honors psychology class or my regular psychology class to kind of give them a nice solid foundation for the course. To each their own. I don't require that whatsoever. I see why it is that they do that, and I think that's a smart idea. But at the end of the day, you do not need to take that course in order to do well and be successful in AP Psych. So there are no prerequisites whatsoever. What should I expect in terms of the workload? This is the question that I get asked the most. You know, I'm interested in taking the class. I think psychology is kind of interesting or neat, but what are we doing? What does it look like? So just to kind of give you the breakdown, you need to expect to read every single night, whether it be from a textbook or articles that I give you, somewhere between 5 to 40 pages each night. Granted, every single night's not going to be 40 pages, but also do keep in mind every single night isn't going to be 5 pages either. So you can expect somewhere in the realm of 15 to 25 pages each and every night, just kind of as your average to work off of. There's lots of writing because of the FRQs. We do a lot of practice with that. There's a lot of note taking. It's just the nature of the course. It's fast paced. We generally, especially if we're testing in the spring, close to when the exam is, we don't have a lot of time, which means there is going to be a lot of information that we're going to have to take notes on, and sometimes that's going to be the full class period. To the best of my ability, I try and keep notes as short and brief as possible, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. So just be aware. You're going to take a lot of notes, and are you an effective note taker? If not, maybe work on some of those skills. Lots of in-class discussion. In order to break notes up, I like to talk about the things that we're discussing in class and some of these concepts. How can we apply those? Make sure that you are studying. Yes, there's note taking. Yes, there's reading. Yes, there's class discussions. But you need to be self-motivated in order to try and find some of this content and create and learn and establish better ways for you to understand it. Sometimes I can say something and the textbook can say something and a review guide can say something and you still won't quite get it. So you have to be motivated and have the initiative to go out and try and find this information yourself. So just be aware that this is a very individualized course in terms of I'm presenting you with the information, and sometimes you're just going to have to go out there and find ways in which you can better understand it. Lastly, 60-40. You can expect to get about 60 to 70% of the information that will be on your test from me directly. I try and give you a broad, sweeping overview of the info that I think is going to be key and important for you to know. However, because of the nature of the course, it goes fast, we have very little time, I can't hit everything. I can't tell you guys everything to expect. So with that being the case, you're going to get about 60 to 70% of the information from me. The rest of it is going to come from your textbook or any supplementary materials I give you guys. Somewhere between 30 and 40% of that info will come from these other sources. So sometimes you're going to have a test and there's going to be a question on there. Hey, Mr. Bowers, we didn't talk about this. What's that all about? Well, hey, student, it was in your book. Have you been doing your reading? Have you been keeping up with any of the videos or review guides that I've posted? So just make sure, once again, you have to be self-motivated. You have to be a hard worker. You have to be ready to do additional work beyond just coming to class every day, writing your notes down, and then leaving. Keep yourself accountable. So with all that being said, that's AP Psychology. Make sure once again that you either scan that QR code or go to the link that's been provided. And lastly, hey, AP Psychology, think about taking it. Think about it. It's a great course, interesting content, and you get college credit, which saves yourself some cash down the road. So keep me in mind.